welcome to this edition of The Guys, your place for fantasy football analysis and expertise. I am your host, the Fantasy Doctor. With me as always, The Guys. To my right, Fantasy's angriest ginger, Big Red, Mr. Mark Down.
I'd like to say I'm happy to be here, but that would be a lie.
He's so angry. I mean, it's show night, baby. You ready?
I'm missing football for this.
I know.
Let's get this.
It is Thursday night, guys. The Thursday night game is starting. We're shooting during that, so we are missing a little bit of NFL. Everything makes the big man angry. And
it's okay. I love you guys. I'm here for you. We're going to win you some titles.
Makes him angry missing a little live NFL. And to my left, advice from the great white north, Canadian bacon, Mr. Car Marchand.
Hey, guys. I got a full box of Timbits for this angry ginger over there, so let's go tonight.
He does that to keep him calm. A little sugar from time to time. Throws a Timbit down there, keeps us all from getting killed.
Yeah.
And as usual, our beverage connoisseur, Miss Holly.
Cheers.
Guys, we have a great show for you tonight, but I want to start with saying thank you to all the viewers. We had 3,000 views last week. We had a couple from Europe. We really feel excited about the way this show's going, and it's thanks to you. On top of that, we're going to do a little bit of a contest because we had so many shares this week. We just want to say thank you. If you share our show this week and the weeks coming on, every time you're going to have an entry. Week 7, we're going to draw $500 and a chance to be on the show. So please share this show. It means a lot to us. Guys, week 2 was very interesting. We're going to get you all the knowledge really quickly. We're abbreviated show tonight. Teaches off. Next week, we're going to have a full panel. We're going to bring back the artiste. He's going to come on. But let's get going, guys. I want to know who you're selling high. We're going to start with you, Big Red.
It's very simple. Chris Thompson's my sell high. It's got to be sell high. This guy's always had a role in Washington. And you saw a guy get hurt. Rob Kelly is a fat man, and I hold him dear to my heart. And the fact is, the best running back in that backfield is Samaje Perine. If the dude held on to the ball, he'd be your starter. He'd be your Chris Thompson. He'd be the entire offense right now. The guy caught 2 touchdowns last week, ran in 2 touchdowns. 3 carries for 77 yards is the best he's going to do. You sell him now because you didn't play him. You're never going to play him. Sell him now for some pieces because this is the best it's going to get.
Yeah, there's going to be guys that pick up Chris Thompson. Guys didn't have him in the lineup. He did play well. It is the time. I agree with you, Big Red, to get rid of him. Over to you, CB. Who are you selling high?
I may need this whole box of Timbits for this one because it might be rant-inducing from that big ginger down there. But Michael Crabtree right now is my sell high. Now, yes, he's going to get red zone targets, but don't get me wrong. This guy, I'm having a little bit of deja vu, and I'm not talking about Bo's favorite late-night establishment. I'm talking about last season. He had 3 touchdowns week 4 last year and then didn't score another 4 touchdowns the rest of the way. I'm worried he's only going to put up 6, maybe 5 touchdowns the rest of the way, and you're hoping he's the only red zone guy. I don't like it. I'll sell him now.
CB, deja vu. I mean, they're all working their way through college, and apparently, CB is Canadian, and he doesn't believe in the American dream. I do, so I support single moms from time to time. Guys, I've got a couple. Emmanuel Sanders had a huge week last week, but let's look at last season. This is a guy who finished with 8+ fantasy points, only 4 games last year. The guy put up 2 touchdowns last week. That is the best game of the year. If you have Emmanuel Sanders, get a running back, get a stud. Time to let him go. And then I'm going to go one more, guys. I don't like Todd Gurley anymore. He had the Colts and Redskins in the first 2 weeks. Still only 128 yards rushing between the 2 games. Gurley goes down going forward. The matchups get much tougher. I like if you can get something for Todd Gurley, I'd go now. We're going to go to next, buy low. And I'm going to go to you, CB, first. Who you buying low?
You know, I'm going to take a guy who scored exactly as many fantasy points this year as me, 0. Doug Martin. Now, he's been on a lot of benches because he got drafted, but he's suspended for 2 more weeks when this show goes out. Hopefully, he's on a bench of a team that had David Johnson or another major injury, and now they need someone. Go get him off of those teams. He's going to put up huge numbers for you, but teams can't wait to get him back if they've already got injuries and they don't have the depth on their bench.
Yeah, I mean, Doug Martin had an amazing preseason. That offense has only gotten better with Jameis Winston as he progresses.
31 rush attempts last week in that offense.
And he's with fresh legs, CB. I like Doug Martin a lot. He's still suspended for this week. Once he comes back, he's got a Thursday night game against the Patriots. The Patriots offense, again, woke up last week, as we expect them to do. However, that defense was still not stout. They're giving up a lot of offense, they're giving up a lot of offense to running backs, in particular receiving running backs, and Doug Martin does catch the football.
And guys, I'm going to tell you this right now. If you wait until Doug Martin plays, you're not going to get him.
I agree with
You got to
that.
get him before he sees the field, because if a team has a ability to keep him until he sees the field, they're not going to give him up once he comes back.
That's a great call, CB. And in this week, people are still looking over him. Next week, when it's imminent for his return, you're going to see a lot more press on it. We're getting too early. Go get Doug Martin if you can. He definitely is a buy low. On to you, Big Red.
I appreciate the fact that the Canadian loves a hamster. It's a Richard Gere thing. He's not Canadian. He might as well be. Very simple. This time last year, the Seattle offense was just as bad as it is now. You had a guy, Doug Baldwin, that arguably was the #1 wide receiver on a lot of teams. You had Russell Wilson, #1 quarterback on a lot of teams. You need to be inquiring about these guys, because come week 6, magically this team decides we're going to play football again. We're going to pretend that instead of trying to pretend that we have Chris Carson, who is a legitimate NFL back, they're going to figure out how to throw the ball again. Pete Carroll is going to do let's just throw the ball and put up 30 points a game. This team's going to make a run. If you pick them up now, you get them pennies on the dollar. These are guys that can win you a league. We had this conversation last year. I told you Russell Wilson is a Super Bowl winner for you. You'd listened, you'd have won a title. This is the time to grab him now, stash him. He's got some really terrible matchups in the first 2 weeks. Now moving forward, this offense just catches fire. You have a league winner that you could have got as a backup quarterback.
Very nice, Big Red. I'm going to go one more player instead of buy low. I don't want you guys to sell Davante Adams. A lot of guys are looking to sell him high. If he's a buy low, you grab him. But this is a guy, the last 21 games with Rodgers, 1,300 yards, 15 touchdowns. Jordy Nelson's hurt. Cobb is hurt. Davante Adams is a guy, if you can buy him low, you grab him. And if you have him, don't let go. Miss Holly, what's next?
Quick hitter.
Quick hitters. We're going to run, guys. I want to know what struggling offense you're buying into. A lot of guys have fantasy players on these particular teams. And I'm going to give you 4 teams, and I want to know which offense you're so buying into. I'm going to go right back to you, Big Red. Your choices are Indy, the Giants, Arizona, and Seattle.
Very simple. It's Indy. As much as I trash these guys, and as Colts fans, you should be absolutely ashamed of your team. But Andrew Luck's going to come back about week 6. And Moncrief and Hilton and anyone else he wants to throw the ball to all of a sudden becomes legitimate NFL players. They become legitimate fantasy starters. They're nothing right now. You cannot play Hilton and you can't play Moncrief. And the guy who spent a first or a second round pick on Hilton is panicking because he probably has nothing else. You go ahead and go and get them now. You get Andrew Luck, you get Moncrief, you get Hilton. I even like Jack Doyle. Why? Because he's a white boy that plays football. Very important. You get them now. That offense is hot with Andrew Luck back. Hotter than Holly coming back with those lipstick.
Very nice. I just don't know when the guy's coming back. I mean, you had the rant week 1. Maybe it's just sell tickets. I think they're still selling tickets. I don't know when Andrew Luck. No one knows when he's coming back.
But that's the thing. You buy him now because the owner doesn't know he's coming back.
Is that a stash for you? So Andrew Luck
Absolutely.
is a stash? I mean, really.
Some guys are cutting him.
I mean, really, we've got basically 2 elite quarterbacks, and the rest of it is kind of a cluster together. Andrew Luck might be that play. If you got room in your roster, I agree with Big Red. Maybe store him now. And if we get him some point this season, you're going to be onto a gem. Over to you, CB.
I would love to say any of them. Can I give you a different one? Cincinnati.
You cannot. You have to
Damn
pick
it.
one of these.
All right. So I don't like any of them. I'll take Seattle of
See
the
what I did
four.
there? I take control of the show. He's not allowed to go outside the bounds.
Cincinnati's offense been worse than all four of them, but I'll take Seattle of those. A lot of the same reasons that Big Red gave. I don't like their matchup this week, but in the long term, Seattle's the offense that comes back around.
And guys, I'm going to go with the Giants. I love the fact that we all disagree, and we'll see who wins going forward. I like the Giants. I mean, this is an offense with OBJ just coming off. I mean, he shook the rust off on Monday night. He looked terrible, but the whole offense did. But they have Brandon Marshall, guys. This is the #1 wide receiver in the red zone throughout his career, the #1 for the last 8 years. When OBJ heats up, Brandon Marshall is going to be the recipient of that. This offense gets back on track. I'm not a big Eli Manning fan, but I think the Giants get in. I think that's the offense, the struggling offense, I'm going to buy into. We're going to move on. Waiver wires. This week, there have been a ton of hot wide receivers on the waiver wire. J.J. Nelson, Perrine, Curse, Rashad Higgins. And I want to hear from the guys, which one are you guys buying into and which one is a flash in the pan? Very difficult. If you spend a waiver wire on these guys, you want to make sure it was worth it. And I'm going to go to you, Big Red.
I told you last week, pick up J.J. Nelson. You could have had him before he went off. 5 catches, 120 yards, and a touchdown. You listen to us. You watch our Facebook. You didn't know to pick him up last week. You didn't have to spend your waiver wire. The guy I'm picking up, again, because when you watch this show, I want you, right now there's 2 names. I want you to go pick up Austin Seferian-Jenkins. He's a guy for the Jets. Jermaine Kearse is useless. He caught 2 touchdowns on 4 targets. Get out of here. The guy to have is Austin Seferian-Jenkins. He's going to not play this week because he's not in football shape. The other guy I want you to go get in Cleveland, not Higgins, go get Ricardo Lewis. He's the guy who had all the buzz in training camp. These are guys that you cannot spend your waiver wire on. You pick them up, and next week, when they go off this week, you'll be looking at me going, hey, Big Red told me to pick him up last week. That's why you watch this show. That's where we give you the information. Stop wasting your time. Last week, you probably wasted your pick on Kerwin Williams. What did you do? Nothing. You listen to our show, we get you the guys.
Yeah, guys, you have to be really careful with your waiver wires. If it's like most leagues, you rotate up, and as soon as you pick one, you drop to the bottom. We're giving you guys that you can not waste your waiver wire pick on. Pick a guy up early, like Lewis. You don't have to waste a waiver wire pick, and yet you have the guy before anybody else has seen him. That's the value of this show. On to you, CB.
Last week I gave you guys Chris Carson's after you saw him get the most touches and he went off. I told you to not pick up Nelson Aguilar. He didn't see the ball last week. This week, I feel like I'm channeling the artiste and I have a little bit of tight end love tonight. I don't know why. I feel like I need to rant a little bit, but it's okay.
Do it.
No, I'm going to go Ben Watson. That offense in Baltimore is built around a tight end that catches a lot of balls. Not a lot of yards, not a lot of touchdowns, but in a PPR league, a tight end that's going to catch 6 to 7 passes, maybe 10 passes on the top end a week. Ben Watson had 8 catches on 8 targets last week. And moving forward, he's got 2 great matchups because he's playing defenses with lockdown corners, so the wide receivers aren't going to get targeted. He's going to get a massive amount of targets.
Yeah, and speaking of Chris Carson, you talked about him last week. I do want to quickly hit on the hits of last week. Things that we told you that absolutely came true. Most of what we told you came true this week in fantasy. But CB, you hit Chris Carson last week. CB told you start Chris Carson, 21 touches, 100 yards, 4.7 yards a carry. Great call. You also, CB, said to sell Nelson Aguilar, and you were dead on. To my right, Big Red said to sit all the Colts. Again, great call. And also to play Hogan and that Tom Brady would bounce back. I think the Tom Brady bouncing back, I think we all knew that he would do something. He is the GOAT, but 3 touchdowns, 400 and some yards, it was really impressive display. I thought he was going to have 6 or 7 watching the first quarter.
You and me both.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. Guys, we're going to move on to the next thing, and Miss Holly's going to introduce it.
Quick hitter.
Guys, I want you to buy and sell in one sentence these players because we have some guys that have started really slow. And I want to know from the panel, do you keep these guys or are you going to sell them, or are you trying to go out and get these guys maybe at a bargain? So I'm going to start with you, Big Red, Le'Veon Bell.
That's an absolute buy. This time last year, they really didn't do anything either. For some reason, Pittsburgh decided we're just going to go away from the best player in the NFL. Still logging 90% of the snaps. This guy, if you can go get him, absolutely buy.
Cheetos and weed?
Well, absolutely.
Can we start calling Le'Veon Bell that? I want to call him Cheetos and weed.
I like it. Nacho cheese?
I mean, does he have a degree from the agricultural college?
Horticulture.
And MSU? I mean, they teach them to be farmers, right?
I think so.
And farming, anyway. I digress. Over to you, CB, Le'Veon Bell.
I'll buy him, but I don't know anybody that's going to sell him to you for anything that is worth buying him on. I mean, he's a buy, but who's going to sell him to you?
Yeah, at this point, I don't know that he's with another week of what he did this week.
Maybe.
I think maybe then you have a buy. Guys, he had 91 yards last week. He's still scoring you 0 or very little points, but 31 touches. And we always talk about volume. We talk about receivers getting chances, passes thrown their way, whether they convert them or not. 31 touches, guys. This is a guy that's still a stud. Le'Veon Bell is going to get you points. Maybe if he has a bad week 3, maybe somebody's selling him. But at the moment, I agree, probably not still for sale. Let's talk about Zeke. Zeke, 0 points in a standard scoring league through 2. I'm going to go back to you, CB. How you feeling about Zeke?
He's still a buy for me. I still am sold on Dak. I like Dak. I know you guys don't, but I think that offense has to come around a lot. But I mean, last week was a bad matchup. That Denver defense is insane. Moving forward, he gets a lot better matchups. He's a buy.
On to you, Big Red.
I have no idea why Dallas decided I'm going to throw the ball against the best pass defense in the NFL. You have the best running back in the NFL, and you said, I'm sorry, you get 9 carries. And we're going to throw the ball against the best defense in the NFL and not give you the ball. Apparently, the coaches decided, I'm going to go hit the weed shop. Zeke, you stay home. I got it. You give me the loonies, throw 5 on it, we'll share it.
Hey,
why do you give him 9 carries? Denver couldn't stop the run last year.
Please feed the man.
Give him the damn ball.
Please feed the man.
It's an absolute buy.
You need some sugar. You need some sugar.
There's no need for sugar. Give him the damn ball. Buy him whatever you need to do, because there's no way that coach can keep his job if he refuses to give the best player, the best running back in the NFL, 9 carries. You should absolutely be pissed off as a Dallas fan. Give the man the ball.
Yeah, and Zeke caught 9 passes, which we haven't seen in season 1. 9 passes the last 2 weeks. So they're trying to open it up a little bit for Zeke. I don't remember. That was a pure rant. I don't remember permission granted for a rant. It was like, but I mean, permission granted after the fact. Very good stuff.
Sugar.
I'll be good.
Zeke is a buy if you can get him. Again, like we talked about Le'Veon, probably nobody's selling him this week. But if he lays a goose egg next week, you'll probably see some guys willing to part with Zeke and Le'Veon Bell. I'm going to get one that's going to be a little more controversial, and I want to go A.J. Green. I'm going to go back to UCB. A.J. Green.
Surprisingly, A.J. Green's a sell for me. He really is, and I think just the situation in Cincinnati dictates this. Fired their offensive coordinator this week. Marvin Lewis is going to get fired at some point during the season. I think we all can agree on that, and rightfully so. No playoff wins with that amount of talent. I just don't know what's coming behind that and what's going to replace that group of coaches. And indecision really scares me when it comes to an elite guy. I'll sell on A.J. Green right now before it goes to the point where you can't get anything back.
Well done, Big Red.
One of my favorite shows growing up was American Gladiators. They had this guy on there. His name was Laser. And every time he came down, he said, Laser. There's a thing they called the wrecking ball. He jumped on that thing and tried to knock the competitor off there, right? The man comes in as an offensive coordinator. They're already calling him Laser. How do you not buy a guy? He's the number 1 wide receiver in Laser's offense. Absolutely, he's a buy. Simply because American Gladiators has never let me down, and A.J. Green will not let you down.
It's a lot of there's a lot there. There's a lot to process off that one.
Is it too much?
It reminds me of dodgeball. No, I like it. Laser, blazer, right?
I like it.
You got it. And wrecking ball is a little Miley Cyrus there. Yeah, I like that when she's semi-nude on the wrecking ball. A.J. Green, listen, Andy Dalton is not the man. Much like Carson Palmer, the most important person in fantasy football, the most important ginger is my man right here, Big Red. Because Andy Dalton and Carson Palmer have a severe case of the gingivitis. These guys are terrible. They're about to be out of the NFL, both of them. I think this is Carson Palmer's last season. I think it's Andy Dalton's last season. I don't buy into either one of these offenses, and I think it's time to sell A.J. Green. Guys, one more before we move on. OBJ. Week 1, he was a sit. Week 2, a no-show, even though we played against the Lions defense. The secondary is not great. I want to hear from you. Let's go to you, CB. OBJ.
You bought into the Giants offense in the last segment, and I'm going to tell you, I completely disagree. I'm selling everybody in that offense, only because that offensive line might be one of the worst in football. They can't protect the passer. They can't run the ball. And with that situation going on, OBJ just isn't going to have the amount of targets that he values as a top guy. Trade him now, still get value. You don't want to see the bottom end of this drop.
Big Red.
I'm going to ask permission. Permission to rant.
Permission granted, my sir.
Fat guys matter. You went out, the Giants, instead of addressing the offensive line, you went out and got Brandon Marshall. You had a slew of pass-catching options, and that was the best way to improve your team. Cincinnati, you let 3 of the best offensive linemen in the league walk. Seattle, same thing. You're an atrocious offensive line. And guess what happens to your team when you let the fat guys walk? The same thing that happens to everybody else who lets the fat man just decide to kick him to the league.
I'm just bringing you drinks. Keep going.
Listen, even Holly's disrespecting the fat man. Very, very simple. You go out and you draft offensive and defensive line, and you have a chance to win in the football games. You got A.J. Green. You've got John Ross, your first pick. You got OBJ. You got Brandon Marshall. Worthless because you can't protect the damn quarterback. Then even worse, you got Dallas. I've already said it. You have the best offensive line in football. Can't run the ball because where are we going to run the ball with Dax? Then I'm going to go to Pitt. You got a team that can play the ball, and heaven forbid you give the ball to Le'Veon Bell because why not? I mean, he likes to smoke weed. He didn't want to sign a contract, so we're going to put him on the bench. Here's what it comes down to. Denver went out and drafted an offensive lineman in the first round. C.J. Anderson looks like the man. Kansas City addressed the offensive line, comes in with Kareem Hunt, not a first-round pick, not a second-round pick, but he looks like a world beater because you have an offensive line. Stop pretending that fat guys don't matter. Draft them, play them, you win.
This is why we have EMTs right outside the studio. You know, we respect you. We love you, even though Miss Holly doesn't. That was very disrespectful. Miss Holly, that was very disrespectful. I mean, the man was in the middle of a rant, and
how was it disrespectful? I refilled his beer.
And he did do. I mean, it was appropriate.
I actually needed it.
When permission was granted for the rant, we all need to give him his space.
I was scared.
These arms go everywhere.
I had already provided him his Timbit, and it was no going back after that point.
We gave the man sugar, and it still didn't work. No, well done, Big Red. I'm buying OBJ. I still think that this offense is worthy of grabbing. OBJ will not take double coverage because eventually Brandon Marshall is going to start scoring. I think at this point you can probably buy him a little low, and I think after next week maybe get a steal on OBJ. Still buy in. This is one of the greatest receivers in the NFL. He's going to score you points. I'm still buying, guys, so we'll see. We're going to move on, guys. Start sits. We're going to do this quickly. Now, this is not, guys, we're not going to tell you to start Tom Brady. You're going to start Tom Brady. We're not going to tell you to start Zeke. You know you're going to start Zeke. These are guys that maybe are on the fringe. You need to plug in a player that you're going to jump in there. Quickly, guys, start sits at QB. Big Red.
Yeah, I mean, truly, at quarterback, you're going to play your studs. I do think that this is going to be the week that you can play Trevor Siemian. If he blows up this week, you have a legitimate guy that you can start and sit. You can start him every week. Trevor Siemian plays Buffalo. Buffalo hasn't given up a single offensive touchdown. Now, they've played 2 quarterbacks that have absolutely been terrible. He's got weapons. Buffalo hasn't been able to stop the run, haven't been able to stop the pass. The guy has the most red zone passes. 9 touchdowns. He's my guy this week. He's a guy, plug and play.
On to you, CB.
I'll be a homer this week. I'll take Matt Stafford. last week didn't need to throw the ball a lot to beat the Giants, but they ran the ball really well. This week, they're going to have to throw the ball to beat Atlanta. That's the only chance they have to beat Atlanta. Atlanta's going to score points against the Lions that New York couldn't. Stafford goes back to that 40-ish pass attempts. I think he probably gets 270, which is about what Atlanta's given up per week in the air. 270, a couple scores. He's a top 5 quarterback for you this week.
Yeah, I mean, 6 touchdowns in 2 weeks, tied for the NFL lead.
Yep.
And I think this week ends up a shootout between Detroit and Atlanta. I like Stafford this week as well. Guys, I'm going to throw out a name, and I'm going to get grief off the panel. I don't care. I'm just trying to get you a guy that make you, as we said, plug and play. I like Jay Cutler this week. I've not liked Cutler in years, but he looked good last week. This week he's got a great matchup. He's getting more comfortable, and he has the Jets. The Jets are terrible. I like Cutler for 270 and 2 scores. If you got to grab a guy and he's sitting there, probably not on a roster, you can grab Jay Cutler. Throw him in there. He's going to score you some points. Who you guys sitting this week? I want to, at quarterback, quickly, guys, on to you, Big Red.
Yeah, sadly enough, I told you Tom Brady was the man last week. This may be the week you want to sit him. They have a lot of familiarity with him. Bill O'Brien. You don't have a better option than Tom Brady, so you're going to have to play him. The same thing with a guy like Jameis Winston. Bad matchups. If you can find a guy that's better, play them. But just know that you're going to need to hit a home run in another position because you're not going to get the yardage. You're not going to get the touchdowns that you had last week. I think this week Tom Brady might be a sit.
On to you, CB.
I've been an advocate of streaming quarterbacks, I think, as the one panel guy who says you can stream quarterbacks. And with that, I was kind of high on Andy Dalton. So I'm going to throw a Timbit over to the Ginger before he gets mad at me for this one.
Ooh.
Wow, that's two.
Yeah,
that's two Timbits in
double,
one show.
Double Timbit.
I think that's a record.
It is.
That's a double couple, guys. We
But
have a double
double-
couple on
I saw
Timbits, and that
another
one went over to
But
Miss
this
Holland.
week he's got the Packers, and with a new offensive coordinator this week, I'm just going to move away from him. I like what Bo said. If you had pegged Dalton as your starter this week, I'd rather go pick up Jay Cutler off the waivers and sit Dalton this week and wait to see what that offense looks like with the new leadership.
I agree. And I'm going to say quickly so we can keep moving, sit the Gingers. Dalton and Palmer are done for the year. They're on your team. Get something for them if you can. Otherwise, sit them with due respect to Big Red. Sit the Gingers. As far as I'm concerned, cut the Gingers. You're not going to get anything for Dalton, but if you can get something for Palmer, now's the time to trade him. I'm done with those guys. Quickly, guys, running backs. Who you starting and sitting this week? Big Red.
Yeah, I mean, keep an eye on. If Fat Rob sits, P. Ryan's an absolute start. Got 20 carries last week. I know everybody wants to pick up Chris Thompson. He's the big, hot waiver wire. The other guy I really do like, you can get out Chris Johnson. He's going to be the lead back out there. They don't have a ton. He's the guy I think that if you have to plug and play, it's a desperation play at best, but he's your best option. He's sitting out there on the waiver